Welcome, everybody. My name's Jay, and we're here with the Ones to Know podcast, the Jay edition. Kelly always in too, but I'm very excited about this one. In the studio today with us is Jared Gossett with Gossett and Co. Jared and I have known each other for a really long time. I'm a big fan of his, what he does, what he's passionate about with building in his construction business, but also outside of that, which we'll cover today. So welcome, Jared. Thanks for coming in to the Ones to Know.
Jay, thanks for having me.
You got it. So give our audience, we've got an awesome audience, lots of people following this podcast, which we're thankful for. Just give them a little snippet about you, like who Jared is and what Gossett and Co is all about.
Yeah, well, we've been at it for almost 16 years now.
Yeah.
Since 2009. So right kind of at the worst time to get into home building. Although actually part of the reason why I'm here in Austin is because, when I first started the company, it was the middle of the Great Recession.
Yep.
And before founding this company, I worked for a real estate private equity group out of Dallas.
Yep.
And we financed all of these projects across the country, which was nice, kind of mid-market projects. Not necessarily homes, more kind of commercial real estate. But I got to see from kind of top down a broad swath of America and what was in complete ruin and what was, still kind of trudging along.
Right.
And Austin was one of the markets across the whole country at that point that I thought was doing amongst the best. And also happened to work out that I loved the city, and all the culture and all that stuff here. So made the decision as our company was kind of floundering that I was working for. Said, you know what, now I always wanted to own my own company. This is the time to do it.
Yep.
And so I just came down and on a whim started flipping houses here. Quickly realized I didn't like the low barrier to entry to that. I wanted something a little bit more kind of evolved and harder to, a little bit more of a moat around it.
Yep.
Because with flipping, you compete with, tech warriors and bored housewives and people like that. And so I thought, let's kind of step
narrow it down.
Yeah. Yeah. So jumped into home building from there, had no idea what I was doing. I was more on the deal structure and kind of finance side. I knew that well. I could raise money. Hired a guy who was a home builder at the moment, and he had this really interesting model in Crestview, which is, kind of a north central Austin little neighborhood that at the time you could buy a lot for like $150,000 and sell a house for $400,000 and make a little bit of money. And so we got in doing that. And over the years, just realized, okay, well, there's a bunch of different kind of lanes that you can choose in the home building industry. And for me, I've always loved kind of the design and pushing the envelope with like wellness. And if you really want to do that, you have to step up into the higher echelons of the market, because in anything largely other than luxury, it's a little bit unfortunate, but you can't really do the things that I really want to do.
Right.
And so we just naturally kind of ascended into that echelon of the market where we've been happy, and we can kind of push the envelope on some of the design and architecture and quality that we're looking for. And we've been in that space since, kind of a gradual, ascension into that space, but I'd say probably largely since 2018.
Yep.
Yeah.
And your quality level is just exceptionally high. I mean, it's always a joy to like go through the projects you all have, because they're meticulous, borderline perfect. I don't think I've ever walked into one of your projects, even in the middle of construction, that didn't feel like I could live in it, even if it was just at the drywall stage. Like everything seems so perfect. That clearly works for you, but a lot of people don't. Builder, developer, I don't always see that. Like, how have you bridged that gap into, it's clearly a good business for you, but you're doing things at an exceptionally high quality level? Like, how is that, like, how did you make that decision, or how does that work when it clearly is not something everybody else is doing?
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the reason why we got into we'll call it the luxury space, is because in most all other subsets of the home building market, and largely the real estate market, my experience has been you've got pretty tight price bands and ceilings, to where there's only so much that you can do and put into a home that will allow it to trade. There's kind of this ceiling, and a lot of that's driven by appraisals and things like that. Um, so there's less like there's an economic term called price elasticity. There's less price elasticity in most real estate markets. In the luxury market, you've got a lot more price elasticity. And so for us, what that means is we can push the envelope with some of the design, some of the quality,
Hmm.
and actually um, get a return to where it's economically justified to take on those risks and to do those things.
Right.
Whereas in a lot of other parts of the market, you just can't do it.
Right.
Um, it would be a losing proposition.
Right.
And so our whole business model is built around pushing the envelope, doing more, and then using that price elasticity to capture a premium on our sale price. And for us, if we're about 15% premium over the broad competition of new homes
Hmm.
in our space, then we're succeeding. That's one of our measuring sticks of success. And so we're pushing the envelope to try to keep that kind of 15% plus premium on a product. And that's how we know if our plan is working or not.
I think it's brilliant, and you've built a brand that people know now, which is very hard to do. I talk about brand all the time. We're the benefactors of this awesome Sotheby's international brand and Sotheby's itself. Brands don't come easy, but people buy your brand. They want that. And I think that quality is there. Even knowing maybe there's a bit of a premium, it seems like people have accepted that and want it because they know they're getting something better. I mean, is that what you've seen as a general rule?
Yeah, I think that brand is kind of like central to the equation, and
Yeah,
it's hard to build one, but
very
once you do it, it's kind of a compounding interest where,
right,
um, kind of the later stages of building that brand, you really see outsized returns, and so that's what we focus on is pushing brand probably a lot more than your average home builder.
right.
Um, but I do believe that that's part of the equation to get that premium, which is like our North Star.
Yeah, I mean, it's commitment over time. And to your point about being in it for as long as you have, it's hard, I think, in the building business to be as committed to quality, building the thing right, and the
Yeah.
service you all have for that long. So, I mean, it makes sense that the brand works. And I think one of my favorite things about you too is I think you have this great balance of, like you said, you know how to raise money and or capital for this, and you've got great investors. I've met lots of your investors. They're very happy with you and proud of the products that they build. I've seen them almost take like ownership of it. Like, we are so excited about getting this one out of the ground and out as like a piece of art. But talk about that. Like, talk about what it's like kind of having that kind of capital, those kind of investors that you're kind of answering to, delivering for, while also building the product that you are. Cause I feel like you love both of those things and do them really well together.
Yeah, one of the complicating factors of our business is we actually view our business model as having kind of two sets of clients because
Okay.
you have obviously the clients that are critical and you have to make sure that you keep 5-star, 6-star type service for them, especially at this price level. But then we do have our investors that are the ones that kind of enable the economic machine
Yeah.
and allow us to produce these products that are um, helping our clientele and that. So it is important that we
Mm.
also keep them happy. And I mean, that's probably of everything that I do, that's where I focus
Yep.
most because I've got a whole operational team around the construction side.
Yep.
And so, for us, it's just about um, getting investors who are aligned with kind of our values and who appreciate what we do.
Right.
But, it's in the whole like universe of investments what we're offering is a little bit unique, and it's also kind of fun because it's tactile, and you
Right.
can go see something that's
Yeah.
really cool
Yeah.
at the end of it, and so I think that adds kind of this intangible benefit to, their experience investing with us. It's not just a monetary economic return, but it's also like, a little bit of kind of sense of pride in what you helped create.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that over and over. We've done several. We've had the benefit of working with you on so many of these great projects and doing events. You know, have been amazing. And yeah, I just see these big smiling faces of people that invest. They just care about it, and it's amazing you've kind of built that kind of community of investors. But I know they become your friends too, just
Yeah.
around you. That's spectacular. Talk about the operations team too, because I've been impressed with your team. that doesn't always happen. Again, I feel like you've lined up these things that are very difficult to actually achieve. It sounds good. It's easy to say on paper, like, yeah, just have awesome investors that believe in what you
Yeah.
do and have an awesome operations team and pick
Yeah.
the right places to build and do and have high quality. Like we could all write that down, but you actually execute, like you deliver on this. Tell me about your operating team, your operations team. How do they, what do they do? How does it function? You don't have to go too deep, but you clearly
Yeah.
have done this in a very designed, laid out way. And I know that's your vision. So how have you done that? What do you want out of that team? What do they do?
Yeah, well, I think in home building, it's X's and O's
Yep.
business.
Okay.
So you kind of have to some extent when you set out on a project, either a custom home for a client or a spec home you're building, you've got this to some extent, this kind of set upside from what
Mm,
you can achieve. And then all of the variables in the process are usually going to affect the downside of the project.
right.
That's where so many clients have bad experiences. It's where um, so many builders go wrong, where they're well intended,
Right.
but
Right.
you don't follow a very systematic kind of X's and O's approach. Um, and because there's so many elements to home building in terms of you've got, code compliance, the field quality standards, you've got um, administrative issues you need to take care of with a ton of, thousands of bills that come in over the course of a project. You have to really make sure that every single team member in your company is pretty well trained and kind of like an A player.
Right.
And I learned that the hard way over the years. And most guys who've been in the business for a long time realize, like, that's probably a pretty solid, rule of life is kind
Yep.
of surround yourself with A players and, you'll have better results. But we really focus on that, just kind of aligning with the best team and having everybody in a very set kind of well-defined role.
Yep.
So, like, we've got our director of sales from our operational side, Erin Fabacher, who's a Kuper Sotheby's agent, and she is one of the all stars of our team. I mean, so having someone like that can come in and really help build your brand is mission critical.
Yep.
And I'll admit, for a big part of my career, I didn't realize the lever that having that top notch sales and marketing talent would deliver for us.
Right.
And so that took a long time to realize it, but now I do.
Right.
Um, our construction team, we have a director of construction who actually in the last year promoted to our president of our company, a guy named Brian Winburn. He's been with me for 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in also keeping long track records
Right.
back to kind of compounding interest. I think that's really important to build kind of a durable company. But we got Brian, who really oversees our operations and a construction team, and then kind of our internal project management team. We have a director of operations and kind of that is internal project management for us, the glue between the office and the field. And then we have our senior project managers who are all we only hire guys that are really, really experienced and well-versed in what they do. And so that really kind of forms the big buckets of our team operationally.
I like it. And I know your builds, like you leverage a lot of technology. I always feel like when I go into one of your projects, you've got the latest, greatest, or coolest things, stuff I've never even seen sometimes. And we're in like tech hub here in Austin.
Yeah.
Anything stand out to you that you've leveraged from a technology standpoint that you love, whether it's like what you put into a home or what you use to manage the company, just out of curiosity?
Yeah. Um, one of our biggest kind of philosophical drivers is wellness
Yep.
and health in a home, which has always been important for me.
Right.
And so we've been pushing on that for years and years. So from kind of a technology standpoint, I like to think that we're kind of helping lead that conversation. I hope we are. And so I think we put a lot more into
Mm,
homes in terms of kind of health and wellness technology. And um, it's great because I think that knowledge and awareness is really picking up
mm,
when we first started doing it back in probably 2015, 2016. It sounded cool and people, their ears would perk up a little bit, but they wouldn't necessarily pay anymore.
right. Right.
Um,
Right.
and, since then, really in the last few years, there's a huge wave. And now the wellness real estate is basically set to double, I think, from the early 2020s to 2029, be a $1.1 trillion industry.
I believe it. Yeah.
And you see it all across social media, everyone pushing the wellness narrative, which is great. I think that it needs to really get dialed in
Mm.
from the broad market understanding, because right now, the flavor of the day are saunas and cold plunge, which is great, which is cool. Put those in. We're putting those in.
Right.
Um, but where we focus that I think is maybe a higher ROI and a higher importance than those things, which are cool, is the experience of actually living in the home data,
Mm.
because you're in there, say, 16 hours, 18 hours a day.
Right.
Um, the air you breathe, thousands of respirations a day
Right.
is probably going to be a bigger lever and driver than a sauna and a cold plunge.
Yep.
The light, which is shining on us all the time, same thing, and the water that we're
Water
constantly. So
filtration.
we
Yeah.
we focus on a few pillars and have some really advanced kind of filtration systems that we use. Some cool circadian lighting systems. So we view that as kind of the pillars from a technological wellness technology standpoint.
Love that.
And we couldn't really find the specifications we wanted, so we've basically been manufacturing um, our own systems there and continue to kind of evolve that. So we put that in the home, which I think is really where the conversation industry wide should be first. Saunas and cold plunges and those kind of things, great, but focus on more the foundation. So that's really where we're trying to push the envelope, and it's an evolving kind of an evolving part of the industry every single year.
I think it's brilliant. I know in a couple of your builds, I've seen like the water filtration piece. I think it actually caused me to dig in deep myself.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that was super eye opening after going through one of yours, and I'm like, what do I need to filter this water for so much? And then you get deep into that and like what's actually in the water.
Mhm.
And we're talking about health and wellness. I think what really almost punched me in the face was steam. Like I've got a steam shower. I love to sit in there and I'm like, all right, well, I'm vaporizing this water that has
Yeah.
all this chemical in it from, all the treatment of it. And then I just ingest it and it goes straight into my lungs. Like,
Mhm.
what a mess. Like, I got to have Jared's filtration system. I don't want all this stuff on my lungs. And that's like, I've literally changed up stuff at my own house because of you and like how much you pay attention to those details. But I'm with you. It has now become way more the demand from our buyers as they're looking for all the holistic,
Yeah.
components to their home. You're right, cold plunge and saunas and pickleball courts and some of these things have just been never would I have thought they'd be so important in a house, and they are, but it really is all those parts, like what's coming out of the frequency of the light bulb and what's going on in the water.
Yeah.
And these are really important. What kind of paint's being used, all the materials. I know you guys are big on materials that you
Yeah.
use,
That's right.
so that's excellent. Tell me, we probably could have hit this at the beginning. What's the scale of the company right now? How many projects are you taking on at once? How many clients are you working with at once? What's your ideal, for all that?
Yeah. We're our kind of equilibrium is probably around 12 homes a year.
Okay.
We're really focused on kind of $5 million price point and above.
Yep.
So about 12 is where we're hitting what we call even flow production, which means that we're keeping uh, a high volume for a luxury builder. We're keeping a lot of our trades busy.
Right.
We're purchasing a high volume from our vendors, and so therefore we're able to get better efficiency on pricing and on just simply performance of labor,
Right.
because we are an important customer for these people we're working with.
Right.
So that right there is kind of our equilibrium.
Okay.
Um, to kind of weave this into the health and wellness narrative, we're going to do a pilot project for kind of a sister affiliate company we're calling Sonare Properties.
Okay.
So it's still going to be kind of a Gossett and company, but what we're doing is we're going to focus on some boutique communities. So we just got one at 611 West Lynn here in
Yeah.
Clarksville in downtown Austin, where we're going to be doing 8 boutique luxury, kind of our same signature
Hmm.
finish out in quality and design, but at a little bit lower price point, because you're going to be smaller lots, like townhome type lots,
Right.
downtown views. And then the thing that we're going to do to push the wellness narrative, we're actually going to put a final point on it with our Sonare Properties community, and we're really going to focus on longevity
Hmm.
centric communities that are designed to actually help people with their live a longer life, better, longer life, basically.
Cool.
And so the idea is we're going to have this like courtyard, uh, this courtyard that's central to the community. The community is going to really be kind of going to arise and be built out of that courtyard. We'll have all of these shared amenities,
Mm.
wellness, longevity amenities. Hopefully I can get a hyperbaric chamber in
Yep.
there, things like that. So
Really?
really, some really kind of, items that are pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
Um, and so that is going to kind of add a second part to our company operationally. That'll be above and beyond, in addition to kind of our standard 12 homes a year that we're doing.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Jared, one of the things I've loved about you and admired about you is you give back, like you're very passionate about things that outside of Gossett and Co, but you use this to fuel that. You mind sharing just kind of what you do outside of Gossett and Co and
Yeah.
what you love to do?
Yeah. Well, back in, I think, 2014, 2015, I teamed up with the University of Texas professor, and we started this little nonprofit to basically go into deeply impoverished communities down primarily in Latin America, and help empower young entrepreneurs down there, teach them about business, help them get their business started. So we've been doing that for years. We've evolved it a little bit because I realized over the years we've got this really wonderful economic engine with Gossett and Company,
Right.
and so what we've also started trying to focus on within that project is to find kind of like micro businesses that could provide products
Mm.
for our company here. And they've got some amazing craftsmen and artisans down in Latin America, and so we've been also kind of investing in and supporting their businesses. We've got a guy who's just a genius with like marble and
Mm.
stonework down in a little city called Puebla,
Okay.
outside of Mexico City, and we're buying products from them, helping try to support his growing business, and
So
so we're starting to do things like that too, which is kind of creates a nice, I think, kind of like a virtuous cycle
I love
for
it.
everybody. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I just remember that from the earliest stage of getting to know you, and I know that's always been something. I mean, you're fluent in Spanish. You're just this well-rounded person, but you give back a ton. And I not to make it seem like the most rare thing in the world, but it is. And I think that's why I've loved working with you too over all these years. Just
thank you.
all these qualities that you have are very admirable. And you deliver time and time again, year in and year out. I can count on this consistent, delivery from you to your client, to the market, and it really drives market. And I don't think people always appreciate what it takes for a market like Austin, Texas to be as vibrant as it is,
Mhm.
but it takes entrepreneurs like you that care about the community, that care about quality, and are willing to take risk. And I've seen you take plenty of risk over the years, but you continue to deliver on this high quality level. So I just
Yeah,
appreciate you
yeah.
time for that.
Thanks for the words.
So I know you gave us a little bit of that, but the future, anything else on the horizon for you guys? I mean, that one project alone, I think, is going to be lights out. But
Yeah.
anything else you want to share about what you're working on or goals that you all have?
Yeah. So for me personally, this Sonari Properties kind of affiliate of the brand is going to be kind of my focus.
Yeah.
We've got our pilot program here in Austin. I'd love to try to get another few properties here. I mean, that's site selection is absolute, as you know, kind of paramount importance,
It's the thing.
mission critical.
Yeah.
So if we can find the right site, we'll maybe do version 2 or 3. If I allow myself to kind of pipe dream a little bit, maybe we'll see how this initial version number 1 goes, and maybe we'll look for another market at
Okay.
some point.
Really?
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I mean, right now we're going to focus on kind of what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And so it's just continuing to, every single year dial in further and further with our core business on these homes, making sure that every single home is better than the last, and then seeing what sort of growth potential we have with this kind of affiliate brand.
I like it.
That's really our focus right now.
Yeah, I think Sonari Properties is gonna be really, really good. And so now out of curiosity, maybe just pulling it all the way back
Mhm.
macro, I mean, especially based on your background, I know you're super studied. Like you study this market, Texas market, regional market, macro market. Any insight you could give us on just like how you see the world, like what you see the future to be? It's a question I always get. I get it every day. Like, Jay, what's the future? What are interest rates gonna be? What's the housing market gonna be? I'll weigh in on that, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be necessarily even in housing, but what do you see just kind of macro for the future? Like, what are you kind of banking on is that as the world turns, as all these kind of crazy things happen to all of us, what's your look to the future?
Yeah, well, I can tell you my thesis, what I believe,
Yeah.
and we'll see whether it pans out or not. I mean, we're betting heavily in the luxury and ultra luxury market.
Right.
I have seen over the last few years that that market has performed pretty well,
Right.
and I think that's probably a deeper story about kind of the wealth dynamics in this country,
Right.
and the wealthy class has done really well and continues to seem to do well.
Right.
So our thesis and our bet is that that trend will continue. So that's one thing that I expect and I hope pans out. From another story, I just don't think you can ever bet against Texas.
Yeah.
You know,
You can.
yeah,
And,
and it's sad to see the state of affairs of a few other of our neighbors here in this in this country. But the fact of the matter is, there are some real concerns that are driving people here, and we've seen there were some very high profile announcements and moves just in the last few months because of the proposed billionaire tax in California.
that's right.
You have some things happening in the government in New York, in New York City right now that also might be a real driver of kind of the movement of wealth. So
Yeah.
Texas is set to be one of the big benefactors of that. And so,
100%.
yeah, I mean, that would probably be my second thesis is that, you just shouldn't bet against Texas right now.
You cannot bet against Texas. It's funny. I try to remain, or I don't even try. I just am genuinely optimistic about most things. But it's been a challenging market. We've all experienced it over the last few years. And what surprised me is I'm like, well, what's gonna turn things around? How are we gonna move forward? But I always love the idea that just don't give yourself pain. Don't do self-inflicted pain. And to your point about some of our neighbors, I feel like some of them are just inflicting pain upon
Yeah.
themselves to our benefit. With the phones has rang just as much over the last couple of months as it has any time in history from people wanting to move here just to escape
Yeah.
what seem to be like punitive economic conditions for what they've worked really hard for. And we're in such a desirable place. I'm with you on don't bet against Texas. It's
Yeah.
big, it's beautiful. The people here are fun. We continue to grow and add, call it more just amenity,
Hmm.
talk about health and wellness focus. One of my favorite things to do is run around in Austin and downtown on any given weeknight and see just how much stuff is going on here. I feel like every square block has people are doing yoga, there's workouts, there's music stuff going on, but it all just kind of feeds into, I don't know, an energy statewide of kind of prosperity, growth, and just a lifestyle people tend to enjoy. So I think you picked the right place. I think we picked the right place. I'm with you on Texas.
Yeah.
Don't bet against it. We're moving forward.
What are some of your theses? I got to hear it while we're sitting down.
Mine's fairly similar. We've obviously been part of Sotheby's International Realty or Sotheby's in general since the 70s. Like we believe in the luxury market. We sell everything. We're super proud to sell every price point. If anything, we're focused on the quality in every price point. That's really kind of what we hang our hat on. But we bet the same way. I'm with you completely. I see the higher end of the market continuing to do well. And I think we're saying the same thing here, but where we are situated seems to be a sweet spot of security in people's invested dollar. So whether we see people buying and speculating on land or even putting their money into a residential property, from our client's perspective, it seems to be safe money, a safe place to put it. You won't get depreciation there. Because I get that question a lot, like, Jay, do you see home values declining in the markets that we sell in? Like, no, I haven't seen it at all. Whether it's Austin or all the way down to Port Aransas, like we continue to see a steady amount of appreciation. It slowed some, but now we're seeing it kind of ratchet back up into even on the baseline, 2 to 3% of appreciation annually. But on the luxury market, it tends to be growing in bigger, increments from there. There was a really high end market in Austin that got a little frothy. It felt like things over 30 or $40 million. That's just nothing we had experienced before, but we're seeing transactions happening again there. So I'll say this one, I'm a one trick pony on this. I think real estate is almost 100% tied to employment. So I always want to say we are controlling our own destiny, but really at the end of the day, it's how robust is the housing market in comparison to jobs. And it's not always job growth, it's type of job, what's
Mhm.
coming to your area. So I pay attention to employment more than I almost pay attention to anything else. People come to me and say, "What about interest rates, Jay? And what about all these other factors?" I'm like, all I really care about for the most part
Mhm.
is how many jobs are coming to Central and South Texas and what type of jobs are those? Because not all jobs are created equal. So it's hard to sometimes look at national or even statewide, just generalized employment data because it can just be too basic. Like,
Mhm.
no, no, no. I want to know how many senior level people are going to be hired by Meta or Tesla or whichever, or even in San Antonio and those markets that we're in, there's amazing diversified market in Central and South Texas. But it's like, are we continuing to have job growth? And I'm sure you watch look at the paper as much as I do, the Wall Street Journal, you name it, or even local press. But nothing makes me happier than another CEO saying, we're
Oh,
aggressively
for sure.
hiring in Central Texas for XYZ reason. And you can track it. You can see it. You can see when job market opens up. It's typically a period of 90 days post, you can start seeing uptick in market. So when I work with our clients, they'll say, "Jay, what's it gonna take to move my house?" It's amazing marketing and all the things we do, and I really push all those things, but I always tell them, "I'm just gonna be watching the housing or the job market, and I think you should too. Who's getting promoted, what's going on, who's being hired, and if you get that upper echelon of employment, you get managers, senior level managers, C-suite moving to our area, it just pushes out and permeates." So, long-winded answer, I've seen headline after headline over the last 3 months of great hiring, great expansion by some of our greatest companies here and new companies coming here. And you get that combination, that's what created Austin to grow from the beginning. And so I see a lot of that happening all the way down this corridor that
Mhm.
that we're very fortunate to serve, but especially Central South Texas. It seems to really be momentum that's hard to stop. And I actually got pessimistic even though I never do. Like, boy, it seems like these wheels of progress have slowed down, and maybe they did for a bit. Um, Saw that on commercial real estate, on, you know, the office market and who was taking office, that sort of thing. But that seems to have balanced in a way, and seems like we're getting a lot of progress. So, long story short, as long as we continue to see these headlines of job growth and senior level employment, we're gonna continue to be prosperous here. I always had that joke growing up. I think it was my dad that really would say it. Is the cliche thing to do is sit in traffic and be upset about being in traffic.
Yeah.
And when you're in my business, all those brake lights are profit. Those
Oh,
are prosperity. Those are people are in the market and working and doing, and that's what drives housing. So
yeah.
I, I-
That's a
I'm
good way to look
I'm
at it.
very bullish about what the future
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah. I'll have to remember that.
yeah, yeah.
I don't do well in traffic.
Yeah, I don't do well in traffic either, but I take a deep breath and I said, "Ah, this is beautiful.
Yeah,
This is what
yeah,
we need." I will still push for a thoroughfare plan
yeah.
enhancement,
Kidding.
and I will push that we do more of the road construction that sometimes gets bypassed or gets pushed down. It's like we got to have it, especially in Austin. But it means people want to be here and
Yeah.
are willing to sit in traffic,
Mhm.
and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic
Jared,
perspective.
anything else to share? I mean, this has been incredible, and I've learned a lot, like always, just talking to you. Anything that the audience should know about you or what's going on with Gossett?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. We don't get enough
We don't.
chances to do that,
Yeah.
so this was great.
Well, thanks for being a leader in our community. Really, it's the kind of the theme of the ones to know in this podcast is people need to know you. I know lots of people do in this community, but I'm thankful for you. This community is thankful for you. Thanks for being on with us, and looking forward to a great, great future together.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jay. Appreciate it.
You got it.